Welcome to the Baseball Insiders on this beautiful Monday. I am Adam Weinrib, joined as always by FanSided's MLB insider Robert Murray. The Yankees and the Dodgers are in the World Series that begins Friday. Baseball fans hate this one weird trick, apparently putting a ton of talent in the Fall Classic that bums everyone out. But some of us are extremely excited to watch Shohei Ohtani, Aaron Judge, Giancarlo Stanton, Garrett Cole, Freddie Freeman, even with a compromised ankle, Teoscar Hernandez, Mookie Betts, Jack Flaherty, Clay Holmes, Luke Weaver. There's a lot of talent in this World Series. We're going to be talking about it, how these teams got here and finished the first job of many jobs, right? You got to win the World Series, but this is an historic matchup we have not seen since 1981, the second most common championship final behind Celtics Lakers, but none of these active players were alive for one. I sure have never been alive for one. I wasn't around in 1981. I can't wait to talk about this as well as next steps for the Mets and Guardians, the Giants GM search. Some things to touch on, but to join me in breaking it all down is FanSided's MLB insider, Robert Murray. Robert, how you doing, dude?
I'm great, man. We're finally here. We know what's going to be happening in the World Series. It's Yankees versus Dodgers. This will be one of the most epic series that I've ever attended, if not the most epic. It was funny. One of my first thoughts last night was that in a season that was about as unpredictable as possible, I was talking about how there were so many good teams in baseball that made predicting this World Series like impossible. Just so happened that the two number one seeds advanced and are now facing off against one another in the World Series. So I'm very excited. I head to LA on Thursday night. I'll be covering that series like crazy. It'll be going nonstop, so I can't wait. But I am even more excited to be here with you today, Adam. It is not your birthday this time, which is unfortunate, but you're still here with me today. I can't wait. How you doing?
Good. It's not my birthday, but it's way better than my birthday because on my birthday, Jhonkensy Noel hit a 2-run home run with 2 outs in the 9th inning to ruin my life.
Oh, I felt so bad. I felt so bad in that moment for you.
I got a lot of people reaching out being like, I feel bad. I got some people reaching out not feeling bad at all, kind of taunting me. And I was like, it's my birthday. I only have one per year. And yet you're still very rude to me in this moment in time. But bad friends, rude folks. But history bore witness that the New York Yankees are moving on. I obviously don't often wear Yankees hats or gear on this show. It's a national baseball show. But the Yankees are in the World Series this year, so they're national baseball news. And this is my 2009 World Series hat purchased in October 2009. And to prove that 2009 was a long time ago, this hat is disgusting. It's very old and falling apart and the wrong color now. So 16 of the 30 Major League Baseball teams have made the World Series between the Yankees' two most recent trips, 2009 and 2024. Do I expect people to feel bad for the Yankees? Absolutely not. You should hate them. You should hate the Dodgers as well if you are not a fan of those two teams. But are Yankee fans going to be excited by this? Absolutely, unequivocally. It's special to be there, and now it's up to them to try to win it. We are going to talk about all that and more. We are live here Monday afternoon, 3:30 Eastern, 3:30 on Thursday as well, before Robert goes off and covers the Dodgers-Yankees in the World Series, which begins on Friday. If you are not with us in the Discord, now is a good time to be there, enter the All-Star tier or the Rumor Mill tier. Get your questions in ahead of time, priority responses in the chat, private perks for the All-Stars. And the Rumor Mill tier, Robert and I are in there all the time answering questions. Come to us with your questions, and if you didn't get them in the Discord, if you're not a member, come into the caption here. Come into the comments. Let us know. I was up all weekend. I was up till 2 a.m. watching the Yes Network postgame show. I was at a wedding on Saturday, Game 5, and I got back from the wedding for Gleyber Torres' at-bat in the 10th inning prior to Juan Soto's at-bat. So I would say for everything that did not work out on my birthday, which was extremely painful, that worked out extremely well. So good vibes for us Yankee fans, win or lose. If you want to hear more, subscribe to The Moonshot. That's our weekly baseball email newsletter where the FanSided MLB team, including Robert Murray, break down all the biggest stories in the big leagues with humor, insight, and behind-the-scenes info. So what are you doing? Get on that list. Get subscribed before Robert heads off to Dodger Stadium to cover the World Series. I guess there's a lot to talk about here, but you've already seen the discourse bubbling up about, Yankees, Dodgers, the big spenders. This is what MLB wanted, right? They've been begging for this. And yes, They have obviously wanted this matchup for quite a while. And if you are a neutral fan, we understand there are no neutral fans this year because it's villain versus villain to you, whether you're a fan of the Red Sox or the Giants or the Padres or a Midwestern team that feels disrespected. Also, the Cleveland Guardians ownership is the fourth richest in all of baseball, but they don't spend. Just feel like I should probably mention that before Guardians fans are like, thanks for outspending us to the World Series. You guys should spend more. You have more money. Your owners have more money than Hal Steinbrenner. But I will stop my crusade now just to say Yankees-Dodgers in a year where there were certainly times when it did not look like we would get this vaunted, ballyhooed matchup that we haven't seen in 40-plus years. We got it. What does it mean for MLB and for the Yankees and Dodgers franchises to get here to end the year?
Yeah, well, I might have some news during the show here. Not anything. I'm just going to tease it like that. So my phone is kind of blowing up at the moment.
World Series is canceled?
The World Series is not canceled.
Okay.
So that's at least the good news right there. But as far as the World Series goes, this is as historic and as big of a matchup as we've seen in recent baseball history. Like, it is massive. We have the biggest team, or two of the biggest teams in baseball, in sports, facing off against one another. And I know there's going to be a lot of people who say, oh, this is, like, as you said, this is what Major League Baseball wanted with all these teams spending the big money. And now they're advancing to the World Series. But this is exactly why they went out and spent the big money, is to get to this position. And I really hope this ends up influencing other teams in free agency to go out and spend, because last year it was about as pathetic of an offseason as I can recall. I was talking to agents, I was talking to teams all offseason last year, trying to figure out exactly what was going on. And it was basically, for the most part, it sounded like crickets. And it was frustrating on a number of fronts. I've never heard agents that mad in my entire life before. And usually they're not very happy in the offseason, but especially so last winter. But I'm hoping that this incentivizes teams to go out and spend. And I think this offseason will be a better position for these teams to do that, especially with the better crop of hitters available. So we'll see exactly if that becomes reality. But I think one of my first thoughts is that both of these front offices should be commended for going out, and especially Brian Cashman, going out and getting Juan Soto, because getting Soto and giving up that package, if it didn't work, that could have cost Cashman his job, like, easily. Mm-hmm. And instead, the Yankees now advance to the World Series. They're facing off against a very good Dodgers team. But here's the thing. The Yankees are also very good, too. They have Juan Soto and Aaron Judge, which is one of the best 1-2 punches in baseball history. I don't think that's an exaggeration by any means. But it's going to be a freaking awesome series. I cannot wait, because this matchup right here, you look at the Dodgers roster, you look at the Yankees' roster, it kind of has a feel of an all-star game in a way. There's so much star power. I can't wait. And my early guess is Dodgers take it, but I can make the case for both of these teams at this point.
Yeah, I said last week I think that I was going to pick either the Mets or Dodgers over the Yankees. I still think I feel that way. We'll have another show on Thursday, so we'll see where I land at that point. I would pick the Dodgers right now in this moment. But, yeah, I mean, all this talk of budget and wielding your budgetary power, and where does that leave the little guys? I mean, again, a lot of the little guys have made the World Series more recently than the New York Yankees. It's not that easy. You have to make bold moves like trading for Juan Soto. You have to extend and sign the right free agents. You have to find the right chemistry fits. The Dodgers struggle to get over the hump. The Dodgers spent all this money this offseason on Ohtani and Yamamoto, and Shohei Ohtani is a monster, man. And Yamamoto threw 55 pretty high-quality innings, but they spent money on Tyler Glasnow, and people said, well, that's unfair. You can't have Glasnow, too, and Tyler Glasnow is not going to pitch in this series. The Dodgers, with this behemoth payroll, are going to have a bullpen game in this series. You know, they had to make the shrewd Jack Flaherty move to even have a number one starter. Walker Buehler could give you 5 good innings, or he could give you a third of an inning. Like, it's still fairly unpredictable. I'm going to side with the Dodgers and say that the lineup is too good to be contained. We'll see where we land on Thursday, but both of these teams are extremely talented and flawed. You will never build a perfect team in Major League Baseball ever again, and I think it's both. I mean, look, obviously these are two internationally popular franchises that are always going to get deferential treatment from the league is undoubtedly excited to see Yankees Dodgers instead of Guardians Dodgers. But it was the big swings Brian Cashman took, like the Juan Soto trade, that toppled the Guardians. It was flyers on Tim Hill and Luke Weaver and Mark Leiter Jr. off the couch that beat the Guardians. And the Guardians' biggest moment in the series came from Jhonkensy Noel and David Fry. It's not always the stars. It's the shrewd front office moves that get you there. It's why at the trade deadline, I was pumping my fist saying Jesse Winker is going to make a difference in this playoff run. And he did. He sure did. The Mets nearly made the World Series. Yes, because of Francisco Lindor, their centerpiece, but also because of Sean Manaea and Winker and Tyrone Taylor. There's a lot that goes into building these baseball teams. And just because for the first time in forever we got behemoth against behemoth does not mean that spending money is some sort of guarantee that you're going to get here or you're going to win it. But it sure does help, and more teams should be more creative in the way they spend moving forward.
Totally. Like there's more than one way to win in baseball. We've seen it this year. I mean, the teams that spent big are having a lot of success. But even last year, we saw the Arizona Diamondbacks, who are not known for having a gigantic payroll. They ended up advancing to the World Series in one of the most stunning runs that I can recall. And there's so many different, like you look at the Atlanta Braves, they have so many homegrown players, but then they've also gone out and traded for some of these guys and signed them to more team-friendly contracts, because that's what Alex Anthopoulos does. And there's so many different ways of doing it. The Guardians with their bullpen, teams can be creative with how they do it, but I think one of the biggest things that these teams have to do is they have to spend. Like, you're not going to end up going and advancing to the World Series with a payroll like the Oakland A's or the Miami Marlins or anything like that. You have to invest in the roster, but it doesn't mean you have to have a $300 million payroll in order to do it. And that's why I'm really high on what the Mets have. And I really this is something I wanted to hit on like during the show here today.
Yes.
Is the Mets have a front office that is really savvy in finding these under the radar guys. I mean, Jesse Winker was one of them for sure, but they've had numerous others. And Tyrone Taylor, like, I know he's not the best offensive player by any means, but I feel like every team needs a guy like Tyrone Taylor. He does a little stuff. He's a winning player. He's a really good defender in the outfield. But Stearns is good at identifying those kind of players, especially with defense, with pitching, but he's also not afraid to go out and spend big. I mean, he did so like a little bit in Milwaukee, but now he's got Steve Cohen, who is funding his payroll and is going to allow him to go out and get potentially a massive fish and maybe a Juan Soto or re-signing Pete Alonso. You would imagine they could have the finances to maybe do both. I don't know what Stearns is thinking quite yet there, but this year to me was the first year of a sustained run for the New York Mets. I think it will happen. I'm very high on what Stearns has done there. I'm very high on what Carlos Mendoza has done there as well. It is the perfect mix to me of a team that has a huge payroll, but also a front office that can identify these under the radar guys that all these World Series teams need. And I'm extremely bullish on what the Mets have going forward.
100% agreed. I think some of it got obscured by the goofiness of Grimace and, the same old Mets, they're being powered by this like myth or they've got these quirky goofs and they're just this cute team. No, they are a well-run front office, well-oiled machine, steward in the dugout and Carlos Mendoza, and the money to compete financially at the very top of the payroll pyramid. We're going to be talking about Juan Soto all week and all of next week because he is the best hitter on the team representing the American League in the World Series. Although it's close. Aaron Judge also very good. Close one too. But Soto's ABs lately have been at another level. We've got questions that want us to talk about Soto and Alonso, and obviously we can touch on them a little bit now because I think what's next for the Mets. I mean, Juan Soto and his free agency is going to be a very big piece of what is next immediately for this New York Mets team. I mean, whether they close that deal or not, certainly feels like this is a tight-knit clubhouse in the Bronx. Giancarlo Stanton and Jazz Chisholm went on record. Jazz said pay him $700 million. That might work. That might help. Stanton said he's coming back. We're going to win the World Series. We're going to bring him back with us. Nice words from the team's stars, but money talks, front offices talk, and the Mets are certainly going to be involved in this process, no matter how confident the Yankees players are that Juan Soto is sticking around.
Yeah, and Soto is a perfect fit in the Bronx, and he has thrived there more than I think anyone could have really expected. But
yeah,
what this season has really kind of underscored is just how rich Juan Soto is going to be after this offseason. He is going to get an absolutely massive contract. We don't know if it's going to be from the Yankees, the Mets, the Giants, the Phillies. I mean, any of these other teams, the Cubs. I mean, there's going to be a lot of teams that are going to be in on Juan Soto. But one thing we do know for sure is the contract is going to very likely exceed 500 million, could reach 600 million. I don't know about 700 million. That's a lot of dough. I don't think he can pitch. At least we haven't seen him do it quite yet, but you never know. But as far as Soto goes, I think the two favorites are indeed the Yankees and the Mets, and then it's going to be everybody else. Both of those teams are going to be incredibly motivated to go out and get Soto. I don't have a good read on what exactly or where exactly he will end up. I don't think anybody knows at this point because it's too early, but he's going to get incredibly paid, or he's going to get incredibly well compensated is what I'm trying to say. He's a generational Hall of Fame type talent. He's in his mid-20s, he's in his prime. There's been very rare cases of a player of this caliber at this stage of his career reaching free agency. He will reach free agency. I know there's some folks who still talk about it on Twitter to this day of, can he sign an extension before free agency? I mean, he could, but he won't. Because his agent is Scott Boras, and Boras is not going to just take an extension at the last second to avoid free agency. He's turned down some very lucrative extensions in the past, most notably with the Washington Nationals. Did not take it, obviously, but he is going to be very, very, very rich after this winter, and it's going to be the biggest markets in baseball bidding for his services, which is surely going to only drive the price up even more.
Yep. I would agree with you on that. And all the people who are like, I feel like extension, look, if you wanted to hold out brief hope that he was going to sign an extension with the Yankees, there was a slight chance in June. Not really. There was a slim chance in May. Not really. There's literally a below zero chance that he does it on November 4th with free agency days away. Sorry, not a chance.
No, I think it is far more likely that I end up marrying Sidney Sweeney than Soto sign an extension to avoid free agency. Neither are happening. So sorry to squash your dreams, Yankees fans, but he's not signing an extension before free agency.
I think it's far more likely that both of us marry Sidney Sweeney at the same time, and I'm already married, so that's the percentage chance that we're talking about here. But either way, generational superstar for sure. He has the third highest WRC plus of all qualified players in 2024. The two people who beat him are Shohei Ohtani at 181 and Aaron Judge at 218. Sarah Langs just tweeted this. And oh, by the way, they're all in the World Series together. Sorry for the people who are not excited about this World Series matchup. I'm excited. I think it'll be fun to watch. To the most important question of the weekend, when Jhonkensy Noel hit that fly ball into the left field corner in Game 4 of the ALCS, when the cameraman focused on the crowd and not the field, did you think it was gone? That is not the only important question, but man, between that and the Soto generational at-bat to essentially lock up the ALCS in a World Series berth for the Yankees, foul ball after foul ball after foul ball and Hunter Gaddis changeups, followed by baiting him into getting a fastball that was supposed to be 6 inches above the zone, but was about 1 inch and got tattooed deep into the right center field gap and over the wall. Those are two iconic at-bats. The Noel home run in Game 3, the Fry homer in Game 3. The 3 games in Cleveland here between the Yankees and the Guardians. Say what you will about an easy path to the World Series. Those are heart-stopping baseball games. The Guardians should be commended for what they were able to do in this series. And it's not like the Yankees played down to their competition and got stuck in these barn burners they were too talented to be in. The Guardians played amazing baseball and were a couple of starting pitchers short. So in examining what's next for them, it feels like, Matt Boyd and Alex Cobb and Bybee fronting a rotation with sort of these spare parts and a tired out 4 horsemen. I mean, that's not the answer, but that bullpen, keep them fresh. That lineup worked. I mean, adding a big bopper would be great, somebody more consistent than Noel, but I mean,
yeah.
I'm not going to say Cleveland's a Pete Alonso destination. They could be. They have the money for it if ownership wanted to go ahead and go that route. I really liked what they put together.
Oh, I love what they ended up putting together. And it is this year, they should be absolutely commended for what they ended up doing this year. And anyone who said that this was an easy series for the Yankees, they don't know ball. I'm sorry. I know that's blunt. That could sound mean, but the Guardians are an incredibly well balanced. They're well coached, and their player development is second to none, especially on the pitching side. It is what they do is different than a lot of these other teams, but they do it just incredibly well. And this was not a fluke by any means. Like, their bullpen was historically great this season. They were awesome, and they just ran out of gas at the end. I do think the splits between Emmanuel Clase's regular season versus his postseason were really fascinating, considering how many he gave him more runs in the postseason than he did during the regular season, which I don't know how often that can be said about a reliever, just a pitcher in general. But they were awesome this year, and they're going to need to add a big bopper to the lineup, to steal your lingo there, Adam. I think that was good. That was a good word choice by you. I think they're going to have to figure out what exactly they're going to do in the rotation. Like with Shane Bieber, do you offer him the qualifying offer this offseason? If you do, does he take it? If you don't extend him the qualifying offer, you try to bring him back. Does he leave in free agency? Like, what's your contingencies there? There's a lot of different questions that team has to ask themselves. But as far as a leadership group, Chris Antonetti, he's one of the more respected executives in baseball. Very good at what he does. Their pitching development is, as I said, is awesome. But getting the Stephen Vogt hire last year, that was the absolute correct decision. I could have told you in the moment it was going to be a slam dunk. Did not expect this kind of run this early, but I am very high on the Guardians going forward. I will say the one question that I do have is they really ended up relying heavily on their bullpen this year, and they ran out of gas in the postseason here. Does that extend in the next season? What exactly does that look like for them? That's something that they're going to have to figure out, but I'm high on both Vogt and Antonetti and just everyone in that organization figuring it out, because they seemingly have a lot of the answers, and they've done a lot of unpopular things in the past, trading some of their starting pitchers, trading Lindor before they had to pay him. But year in and year out, for the most part, not every year, but almost every year, they've been competitive. And this year may have been their best work yet, because that was very impressive, especially for a first-year manager in Stephen Vogt.
Unequivocally. And the comments saying most stressful 5-game series in baseball history, it's definitely up there. People were talking about the 2014 NLCS Cardinals-Giants was a great one. A lot of back and forth. Ishikawa with the walk-off to end that. This was very reminiscent of that to me. And you ended up with a lot of people acting like the Guardians were pushovers. And yes, there were moments of sloppy defense on both sides. And yes, there was a Brian Rocchio error that set up the Soto home run. But that does not mean the Soto home run wasn't impressive because Brian Rocchio made an error. Those are, Mark Leiter Jr. flipped the baseball through Anthony Rizzo's legs. These happen to talented teams. The Guardians got up off the mat, routinely erased that deficit, that gut punch deficit in Game 3, erased a 6-2 deficit in Game 4, held the Yankees in check, tied 2-2 up to the Soto home run. The Guardians are extremely talented. They were the number 2 seed in the American League for a reason, and I have a feeling they're going to do some of the exact same things next year, graduating more talent from the farm. You'll see Manzardo for the full year probably. You might see Chase DeLauder. They just got the number 1 overall pick a couple of months ago. Travis Bazzana in the Guardian system. Like, there's a lot of talent there. Pipeline not dry. And they can develop pitchers. But, yeah, one bona fide power threat would do them very well. And then just maybe one, free agency. We can't rely entirely on these potentially burned out young pitchers and just saying, well, Gavin Williams will be back. And, Bybee will take another step forward. Get a little bit of reliable pitching. Do just spending as much as the Royals did could be massive for this team.
Oh, they absolutely, I could not agree with you more on that one, because we saw what the Royals did last year. They were kind of an afterthought in the American League. They went out and, the last part of their offseason was extending Bobby Witt Jr., but they also added a lot of veterans in free agency. And the Guardians don't even have to do it to that extent, but they just need to add some veteran talent, some veteran players, pitching staff in the lineup, in the middle of the lineup. I think would really help them get over the hump here, and maybe even the World Series next year. And I will say, I talked to numerous people in and around the Guardians this year and throughout, and it sounds like those guys just had a blast. And the culture that Stephen Vogt ended up building there, I think that is going to be an organization where some of these players really look at them and identify them as a potential fit, or like a destination to go to in free agency. That's not something you can often hear about the Guardians, but people notice what Stephen Vogt's building in Cleveland. They're intrigued by it. I think there's going to be some players that want to go there. I really do.
Could in fact be a destination wedding, and those are the best kinds of weddings because you don't actually have to buy a gift. Your presence is a present. So yeah, just like when Robert and I both marry Sydney Sweeney, that is becoming a destination. In fact, love to talk about the Guards. Seriously, a lot of fight in that series. I do wonder if there's any risk of Terry Francona poaching some of those coaches for Cincinnati, though. I saw some Guardians fans being like, Sandy Alomar Jr., we sure he's here for the long term? He was always the lieutenant when Francona would go on leave. They would sort of hand the reins to Alomar Jr. I wonder if he would jump ship. I don't know. But either way, not a lot of things to fear in Cleveland. Great steps ahead for that team. Going to get to a couple questions. Do want to touch on the Giants GM search, so it's not just Yankees Dodgers. We are doing service to the fans who are saying we're not going to watch this World Series. Teams are too rich, not interested. Okay, that's where you're at, then fine. But any potential updates on the Giants GM search? Saw a few folks pull out, or somebody high up in the KC Royals front office pulled out over the weekend. So any updated thoughts there?
Yeah, that was Scott Sharp. He pulled out of the running for the Giants' general manager position, as Ken Rosenthal reported. But that job, to me, I think Buster Posey has to go with somebody who's experienced in the front office, like who has a lot of experience, because this is a totally new position for Posey. Obviously, he ended up having some ownership experience. He was obviously a great player in San Francisco for many years. But having someone who's experienced and has done some of this nitty-gritty work, I think would be really important for him, and just to have somebody to lean on. And there's some other names that you can hear, like Billy Owens, Kim Ng, Amiel Sade, Deshaun Watson, Thad Levine. I'm going to throw out another one. And I don't think this has been reported yet, but I think a name that could draw some consideration in San Francisco could be his old agent, Jeff Berry. He left CAA baseball. He is not an agent anymore. I think that could be a name that is under consideration there in San Francisco. I don't know the likelihood of it potentially happening, but I think that would be a name that would really intrigue Posey. They have a very good relationship, so I'm just throwing that one out there. But I think it should be very clear at this point that they're casting a wide net. They're not going to rush it by any means, but they want to get this hire right. And I trust Posey to attract a really good candidate, because I think that is a really attractive job. And they should have some flexibility in the offseason, which that's only going to be more enticing for any of these potential candidates as well.
I just want to touch on two more players that I've seen in the comment section before we sign off, because we did a little bit of time on Pete Alonso, but just want to note that theoretically could have played his final game as a Met yesterday, got the farewell send-off from Citi Field, and they won that game in Game 5, so good job by the New York Mets rallying to the cause. But, could they afford Soto and Alonso? Sure. Already seeing the takes on first baseman, power tool, but hulking. Will it age well? The Mets are the kings of having dead money on the books. They had Scherzer and Verlander on the books all year, so they can absorb a contract that may be a mistake. Alonso loves to be in New York. New York loves Alonso. He had every moment that Francisco Lindor didn't have this postseason were Alonso moments. So You miss him if he's gone. I guess any thoughts on potential future in New York and destinations elsewhere? Cubs fans are listening with bated breath, I'm sure. Mariners, that's a destination. There are some clubs that could use a Pete Alonso, no doubt.
Oh, no, you're totally right about that. And one thing he did do this postseason is he made himself some money. He came up clutch in a lot of different situations. Obviously had the crucial 3-run homer off of Devin Williams in Milwaukee in Game 3 to send the Mets to the NLDS. And it hit many other clutch homers, had some good defensive moments as well. And it is possible that he ended up playing his last game in New York, and they will maintain dialogue in the offseason. I think that is something that both Alonso and the organization are both committed to, but there's going to be other suitors in this as well. You look at the Giants, the Guardians could make some sense. I think the Cubs, the Mariners, there's going to be a long list of teams after Pete Alonso. I mean, Houston could make some sense, as Doc said. I mean, who knows? But he's going to get incredibly well compensated. I would not look for an early solution whatsoever, especially considering his agent is Scott Boras. He ended up making that change earlier in the year, and Boras is known for kind of holding out for the top dollar. So we'll see where or when exactly he does go, but he is going to command a 9-figure contract. I feel pretty confident in that. But where that contract eventually comes remains to be seen. But he will be another player that's well compensated this offseason.
And I'm going to shout out another player who may have revived his potential earning power. Zach G's comment asking if the Yankees try to sign Gleyber Torres in the offseason or give him the qualifying offer because the leadoff hitting saved his season. It sure did. And I don't think the Yankees would go beyond giving him the qualifying offer at this point. I still feel like, especially now that he's got more money to be made out there, that it's less likely he comes back, not more likely. But if he does leave, he will be leaving New York in a true thank you for your service fashion because he's been incredible in September and all October long. But thoughts on Gleyber Torres? Do they risk the qualifying offer because they know Gleyber does like playing in New York?
No, he absolutely does like playing in New York, and that is a really interesting question. I think it should be something that is on the table for New York. The qualifying offer just got what did it get released as? Like a little over 20 million, give or take.
Kind of a lot, yeah.
That is a lot of dough. That's not a small chunk of change. And like obviously it was a very up and down start to his tenure with the Yankees, but moving to the leadoff position there and his strong run to end the season, like I think it's going to result in some really difficult and hard questions being asked in that front office. I don't have a good answer for you on that. I'm curious what you think, Adam, because you watch the Yankees daily. You're around that team. What do you think they should do? What do you think they will do?
I think they should be ready to let him walk, but I would extend the qualifying offer. I mean, it's becoming like the franchise tag at this point. It's kind of a hefty price tag, but worst case scenario, you get that draft pick compensation for a player that you were ready to trade at the deadline. Honestly, like he was below league average in OPS plus all year, well below average. I do think if Gleyber was able to dictate his future, he would be a long-term Yankee. I think it would be nice to have some clarity on the Juan Soto situation. It would be great if the Yankees were able to coordinate those things, but we can't all live in an ideal world. Obviously, if you extend the qualifying offer, the timeline is dictated by the realities of the qualifying offer. You can't say, Gleyber, hey, chill. You could say reject and we'll come back to you in January or whatever, but I don't know. There's a lot going on, and I think they wish they had all those ducks in a row first. They won't. Lot to weigh. I would give them the qualifying offer, but accept that somebody could just come in and blow them away with a 4-year offer, and they would have to just say, yeah, no, we're going to pick Juan Soto.
No, and that's the tough questions that these teams, especially the Yankees, are going to end up having to ask themselves in the offseason is how exactly do you allocate those resources? Because the Yankees, as we talked about like at the start of the show here, they're not a perfect team right now, and they got a lot of free agents after this season, so they're going to be a lot of roster shuffling and try to figure out how to divvy up those resources is going to be a really important and probably the most important question for Cashman this offseason is how much of it do you spend on Soto, how much you spend on the pitching staff, how much you just put everywhere. I don't know. I think the qualifying offer should be something that is on the table for Torres, though. His end of season deserves that conversation being had. I don't know what they'll do, but just adds another layer to what is going to be a very important Yankees offseason. That is putting it lightly. But that being said, they have to play in this thing called the World Series first. So that seems like it'll take precedent and take priority for the Yankees, which, you know what, that seems like a pretty good thing to have to handle right now.
Yeah, again, here we are. Everybody's saying, oh, the Yankees traded all that to the Padres just for 1 year of Juan Soto. That 1 year of Juan Soto has gotten them to the World Series. That is why you trade all that to the Padres.
Yep. And that trade to me already looks like a success. If they win the World Series, then it is definitely a success because if you give up all those resources and you win a World Series immediately, yeah, it could hurt in the long run, but it got you a World Series. That's the ultimate goal. Like, that's a win. So this is a very important series for both teams, but it's going to be a fascinating one. I cannot wait to get to LA. I will be doing the show from Scottsdale on Thursday before my flight. So we got that going for us. That'll be good. But Adam, I appreciate you, man. This is a good show today.
This was a great show. I can't wait for Thursday. We'll do a little deeper dive, roster preview, etc. We'll know a bit more heading into the World Series. Maybe Nestor Cortez for the New York Yankees probably should be if he's healthy. But we will know a little bit more. Get ready. Do the nitty-gritty of the World Series preview. Make official picks probably, although I don't think mine will change. But we will see. Either way, can't wait to watch it. And if anyone has a ticket hookup to Yankee Stadium, let me know because I'm not paying $1,600 for standing room only. I wish I could. I wish I was that stupid that I could just be like, yep, love my team, $1,600. But no, that's I think that's a bridge too far for me. But we will be back here at 3:30 Eastern, and I'll be back next week again unless somebody has $1,600.
No, I do not have $1,600 on me. I mean, I do have some Chobani yogurt in my fridge. I don't know if that'll get you into the game, but I do have that.
It won't hurt.
Yeah, I mean, either way, I mean, you'll at least be full. So we got that going for us. But hopefully, you end up finding your way into the ballpark. That would be awesome for you. I hope you do as a late birthday present. But I will see you here on Thursday. I appreciate you, Adam. I appreciate everyone in the comments. Joanne, our lovely producer. We appreciate you, and we will see everybody back here on Thursday.
Shout out Robert Murray. Shout out everybody watching and joining us in the comments. Join us in the Discord too. We'd love to have you. Until Thursday, take care, everybody.
Thank you, everybody.